everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you had an excellent month of April. I am actually recording this on the last day, April 30th. I hope you all are doing well. We are in the middle of a very rainy spring season here in Texas, and I'm glad you could join us today. So I have plans for how I want to do this episode. If you haven't followed along with the channel so far, typically I do an alternating episode between mostly knitting and crochet, and then alternate opposite or the next episode with cross stitch, embroidery, sewing, that kind of thing. So this is the cross stitch episode, and because this is the last day of April, that means next month is May. And for those who are big in the floss tube / cross stitch community, that also means that what a lot of people refer to as mania is going to start. I am actually going to do a separate episode about my plans for May. I am going to try to participate in my own way. There are a couple of other floss tubers that I follow that I think I'm going to do what they're doing this year. However, though, I've changed it up a little bit, and there are a couple of days in the month of May that I want to set aside for very specific projects. But having said all that, I am actually going to do a separate episode for my May plans, and in light of the name of the May happenings that go on every year, I don't like the word mania. There are a lot of floss tubers out there, and I kind of agree with them, that there's a lot of stigma and negative connotations behind words like mania that have alternate meanings when it comes to mental health, simply because I have people in my family and loved ones that I know of that deal with mental health issues on a regular basis. So there was a floss tuber and a person on Instagram that I follow that she actually suggested using the word mayhem instead, which that kind of is what it feels like, is that it's going to be is mayhem, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through it all. And I kind of use that word also for March. Again, instead of using the word madness, I use the word mayhem for that as well. I kind of like that word. But in addition, as just kind of a nice little coincidence, the cat you hear in the background, May, that is actually her name, is Mayhem, because when we got her, she's not a young spring chicken anymore, but when we got her, the Allstate commercials with Mayhem were really popular, and she was rather a precocious, rambunctious kitten, and she still thinks she is, as the old lady she is now. But so we call her May, but that it's short for Mayhem. I mean, that's what we named her. So I felt like that was a fitting name for my May plans. So yes. So just to kind of summarize, I am going to do a separate video for all of my May plans, what I'm going to do, the people that I'm going to follow, the hashtags, and all that good social media information on how you can follow along or participate along if you choose to do what I'm doing this year. Plus, I'll give a little bit of background, since this is my first year, a little bit of what I understand the May festivities to have been in the past and what they are now. So with that, I'm going to switch gears now and talk about my month of April, the things that I have finished. I have a fully finished object, if you hadn't noticed in the background. I have actually another finish and it was a SAF, a start and finish for today, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'll go through some of my whips that basically I worked on all month, and that will be put aside for May, and then wrap things up with a little bit of a few purchases that I made that I thought were really nice, and that I thought I'd share with you guys. So let's move on to my fully finished object. Okay, I've taken it down from behind me here, but this is my fully finished object for the month of April. This is, if you've been following along, is the Stitchonomy, the winter stitch along, and I've featured different parts of this all throughout the past couple of months, several months honestly. This is something that was kind of slow going in the beginning. She releases these parts every, over the winter months, it was like every few days you'd get a new row. And I just now got around to finishing it because her new Stitch Along the Homely Houseplants version 2 dropped, I want to say on April 19th maybe? Something like that. Actually, it may have been a couple of days before that, because I think I fully finished this on the 19th. I started stitching a little bit on the houseplants before I got done with this, but I realized I couldn't, it didn't seem right or seem fair to start the second stitch along that I was doing with her this year without getting this finished first. So this is on 14 count, just navy Aida, and this was using the called for DMC colors that she had in her pattern. And then what I opted to do, she did, so the way she finished hers, and that's the thing with her stitch along, she provides finishing instructions at the end. And with hers, there was a kit, I think, that you could purchase. And she did a running stitch around the edge of her Aida, and then basically had a bell pull. She rolled her Aida up and tucked it, basically stitched it to the bell pull. But I decided, one, I realized I didn't leave myself a whole lot of room here to roll this up and have enough room, enough space at the top. But then also the bell pull I really like, but I knew I had a lot of wooden dowels. So this is what I decided to do, was basically I had this really cute fabric. And even though this is not a winter fabric necessarily, these little floral designs and the colors just always reminded me of snowflakes. So I had some scrap left over from some other projects that I had done. So I just made a binding all the way around and then stitched it on, and then had enough left over to do just a couple of really, really basic straps and stitch them on there as well. So yeah, so that's my finish, and I think it's really, really, really cute. I really like the colors, and I'm glad I went with the called for. I think I also mentioned previously that the navy Aida was not my favorite, simply because it was just really, really hard to see. But I am glad. I'm happy with the finished product. Yeah, I'm actually excited. I've started, and I'll show you here in a little bit with my whips that I've got going on currently. I am excited about doing the houseplant one as well this year. This is the second version that she's done. Apparently the first version had multiple color schemes. So she kind of gave you, if you had done the first version, she gave you options on how to, if you wanted this second version stitch along to match color-wise, she kind of gave you some options. But this is the first Stitchonomy stitch along I've done. So I don't have the previous houseplant pattern. So I was perfectly fine using the colors that she called for or suggested for this go round. So, but yeah, I'm really happy with this. Of course, winter's over now, but this will definitely be something that I'll look forward to hanging up this coming winter. And it is nice because it's not holiday specific, so once it starts getting cold, you can certainly put it up for several months and enjoy it. So yeah, I really liked it a lot. So that was my fully finished object, the one that I fully finished. The other, though, that I had really quick was a finish, and this is kind of a finish for now, sort of. It's a fully finished piece. It's just part of a larger project. Darling and Whimsy Designs does the Quirky Quakers, and as a matter of fact, she's released a couple more here. Prior to those two, I believe there were 7, and I've mentioned in previous episodes that my original plans were to do, when there were 6, do one every other month for the entire year. And when the 7th came out, because of the way that she released it, she offered it up with coinciding with a donation that you made to an animal rescue or shelter of your choice. And because of that, I decided that April 30th, today, which is Adopt a Shelter Pet Day, National Adopt a Shelter Pet Day, that today would be the day that I stitched on number 7, which was Fishbone. And so what I decided, I've got a larger piece of Ada. I believe it's a 14 count, because I think back when I bought this, that was kind of the only Ada I was purchasing at the time. And it's, I think it's just a Zweigart called Silver Luna. But basically, it's a really big piece of fabric that I'm keeping on a scroll frame. And so I am just adding each Quaker as I stitch them up. So this was my January/February, the Lovebirds. And then this was my March, which was the Fox. And then this, I know you can't see me, but this right here, this was today's stitch. This is the Fishbone. And as you can see, the little kitty cats peeking from behind. The linen again is Silver Luna. It's an Ada. And I opted to, I'm trying to use forbidden fiber floss for all of my patterns that I'm stitching on this, specifically as much as I can. The one exception, like on the Fox, was I did use 310 just to do the black eyes, nose, and feet. But so for Fishbone, I use 2 colors. The black is called Obsidian, and then the kind of pale white with a little bit of pink to it is called Vintage Ornament. And again, they're both by Forbidden Fiber Company. And I chose this color scheme in particular because this is, if you follow me on social media, you might see from time to time that I mention our 2 cats and their Instagram, and we have black and white tuxedo style cats. So that's why I wanted to do these colors this way, kind of in just to represent our cats, and again to stitch it on the day that we celebrate nationally here, to adopt pets from shelters as opposed to going out and buying them from breeders. And both of our cats, pretty much all the pets we've ever had, have come from shelters or rescues or organizations, nonprofits that, especially with cats, there are just so many that, especially this time of year in the spring, just cats just have litter after litter after litter, and so they have a hard time finding homes for them. So yeah, so that was my finish. Fully finished for today, but like I said, it's part of a larger project. I'm going to continue to put all the Quakers that I can on this one big piece of fabric. Okay, so with that, I'm going to move on to my whips for the month of April. Some of these are things that I didn't start till nearly the end of the month, and other things have been going on since before the beginning of April, but I thought I would share everything that I've worked on leading up to, like I said, May, and my plans for May are pretty much going to put everything else you see here on hold. Yeah, I can't think of any exceptions to that. Okay, I thought I'd start with some of my stitch-alongs that I've been working on. The first one I wanted to show you was my progress on my Made to Create SAL with Caterpillar cross stitch. This, if you remember, is the month to month they release a new section, and it is a very colorful pattern that represents all the different kinds of crafting things that we all love to do. And I am not done with the section that was released on March 25th, but I got really close. So I didn't quite get finished with the March 25th section in time to start the April 25th section. But last time, what I had done was they had released the E and the A, these little few pieces up here, and then this ball of yarn and this little bit of yarn over here. The March 25th, which was the third section, was this R, which is the little embroidery hoop, and the embroidery floss, and then this paintbrush, and then this giant, and it's going to end up being a tape measure. Sorry, I had to take it out of the Q-snap, but I'm trying to hold it up so you can see it, using it as a framing mechanism. This huge tape measure down at the bottom that you see basically goes to both sides of the piece, and a lot of people have said how that tape measure was kind of a bear. I mean, was kind of it's a lot of stitching, and obviously I didn't get done with it, but that's where I stopped. And of course now they've released the April 25th section, which is so if you haven't quite figured it out by now, this is going to say the word create, like this is an R-E-A. So the next piece, that section that they've released, is actually over here. It's the C, and it's like an artist's palette in the shape of a C, and then there's some more stuff I believe up here as well. But yeah, because I have plans in May to be a little more exclusive about what I stitch, all of these works in progress are basically going to be put on hold. So I will be more than a month behind on this, but there's no, a lot of people mentioned there's no competition. There should never be any feeling of anxiety or stress. There's nothing telling any of us that we have to have this done by any period of time. It's just fun to stitch these together and see people's progress as they get these worked on. So for most of us, you know, life gets in the way, we have other things going on, you know, projects like this, we can only do so much at a time, you know, with the free time that we're given. But yeah, so I'm not feeling stressed about it at all. It'll get finished when it gets finished. I will finish it because I really love this piece and I love stitching on it. But it will be put on hold for a month, and that's okay. It'll give me time, you know, basically to finish it at my own leisure, and that's actually not such a bad thing. You don't feel as stressed about it, and you kind of get to see what other people end up doing with theirs, and maybe if they end up changing it up a little bit, maybe steal some of their, or borrow some of their ideas for how they made some changes. I actually, for some reason, I didn't realize, so there are 3 blues in this. There's this really bright royal blue. Well, actually 4. That's almost a purple, but it's kind of a blue also. But there are these 2 right here. And this is a much brighter turquoise, and this is a much softer or more like a sky blue. And when I originally kitted this up, the 2 blues that I had, this one, which is 3846 for some reason, was either I got the wrong color or labeled it wrong, or it was an older dye-lot, but it was much, much closer to this color blue. And there are a couple of spots where I had to make a decision. So I'll kind of show you. This blue right here, this light blue right here on this pencil, and the blue on this puzzle piece are actually supposed to be that brighter blue color. And this is where I noticed it, because there's 2 different colors of blue there, and my 2 colors were so close you couldn't tell the difference on that embroidery floss. So I went back to Michael's or Joann's or wherever and went over and pulled the 2 colors again to see, and realized that for some reason the one that I had was not as vibrant a turquoisey blue as this was. So yeah, things like that happened too. So it was actually kind of fine. I didn't have a problem with it, but it made me realize I wasn't going to go back and frog out the blues that I wasn't concerned with. But that one little section at the top of the embroidery floss, I did end up frogging out that little bit and then stitching it again with the correct color, because it wasn't going to be obvious the difference between the 2. And I don't know now if anybody has any suggestions. Drop a suggestion below. I'm not sure how to figure out what color I actually have, like if I confused the DMC numbers, or if it was an older dye lot. So I may just end up putting it like in a stash of colors to be used on projects when I can pick my own color essentially and not have to worry about it, or when I run out of the other maybe, and because they are so close you may not be able to tell the difference. Okay, so the next work in progress that I'm working on, or did work on for the month of April, is the Stitchonomy, the Homely Houseplants version 2. Now this one, similarly to the winter stitch along, she's releasing the sections like every few days, and because I was behind and I was trying to get this finished before I started this, I am behind now on this one as well. And before she started releasing each plant, she did release like the frame, the beginning of the frame that the plants were going to sit on. It's like kind of like a bookshelf or a wooden structure. So, but because of how spread out it is going to be on this, I didn't want to take the chance and have something happen and my stitch count be off and have to frog a bunch of stuff. So basically I waited to start the framing of the plants when I started the first plant. And that's basically, I've got almost all of the first plant done. So that's my start. And it's not a whole lot. I think there's there's one right above it, and then there's a row of like little cactus. Yeah, and there may actually be a 4th release here, like maybe yesterday or today. But yeah, that's what I've gotten started so far. But it's really cute, and I love these colors. It's going to look really, really good, so I'm kind of excited about this one too. I didn't mention on the last one, the Made to Create is just a 14 count Aida. I mean, just stiff as a board right out of the tube, you know, from like the craft store. And I am stitching all the DMC, called for DMC. This one is, I think, a 16 count called Luna. And again, I'm using the called for DMC on this one as well, but it is the color palette that she is stitched this on, the original color palette. Like I mentioned before, there was a version, an alternate version, if you had stitched the Homely Houseplants version 1, there were 2 or 3 different color schemes, so she gave you options on how to change them up if you wanted them to match. But yeah, so anyway, so that's my little start on my Stitchonomy Homely Houseplants version 2. And I've mentioned this previously, her stitch-alongs are really nice. Basically, all you have to do is sign up. Usually, if you don't already subscribe to her newsletter, you just go to her website and sign up for her newsletter, and then she will let you know what the next stitch-along is. And you do not have to purchase a pattern. I mean, she has these patterns available for purchase, and actually if you purchase them in the beginning, you actually get to kind of stitch ahead, get several sections ahead of everybody else. But they're very accessible because basically she sends you just an email, another newsletter with another section of the pattern. So really they're a free stitch along, and I think they're great. She's a very good designer, and I really like her stuff a lot. So yeah, and the information will be below on how to sign up for a newsletter and where to find her stitch along information. Okay, so the next couple, let me do this one first. So this is the third major kind of stitch along that I'm participating in with, other folks, signed up. This is the Frosted Pumpkin Cozy Cafe Club Sal stitch along. This one started on March 25th, and so they just released the second section on April 25th, and I'm caught up, ready to start the next section, but again, I won't start it until after May is over. But this is, I was caught up at that point. The only thing I didn't do, because they suggested it, there are beads that come with it, and they just suggested you wait and do the beading at the very end so you don't snag them on anything or get them caught anywhere. But this is the first section release, which is Raspberry Mocha. The second section, which is going to be over here, is matcha tea. But yeah, I got done with the first section, and it's really cute with the little panda bear on it. And this is going to be all different kinds of like drinks and snacks and stuff. So I did get a couple of their needle minders to kind of go along with it. And I am stitching this. I actually bought the fabric from them. The DMC is the called for DMC, but I believe this is a either 14 or 16 count Picture This Plus opal. So yeah, really, really, really pretty. And I do like, it's, it looks pink, but it's got just the faintest hint of like some brown in it. And I really do like it a lot. I like it a lot. It's a really pretty, and it's a very soft fabric. So yeah, I was happy to be caught up with that. And like I said, then I will play catch up when May is over, and get going on that, and yeah, and get the next section rolling when my month of mayhem is over with. Okay, so the next few projects I have to show you they are stitch-alongs only in the sense of social media, like hashtag or something like that. They're not like, released in sections or anything. All they are just stitch-alongs that people wanted to start because they really liked the pattern, and they wanted to get other people to participate. So the first one that I will talk about is the Peruvian Cat's Sal. This is the Peruvian Cat Reflection sampler by, her name is Anna, and I'm always afraid I'm going to mess up her last name. I think it's Ana Aguayo, Heuayo. But this is her design. She sells her patterns on Etsy, and of course I'll put that information below. So I am stitching this on this is actually my first attempt at stitching on something other than Ada. This is a 32 count vintage mocha country Belfast linen, and this is what I've done so far. I actually had to stop. As you can see, it's kind of wonky because it is linen. It's kind of, the Q-snap's kind of pulling on it every which direction, so it's not, it is straight, it's just because the fabric's being stretched every which way, it doesn't look straight. But I had to stop, so I am using Leo and Roxy floss that is exclusively sold by Evertotes Caroline in Canada, and the color I was using, this is the floss right here, as you can see it's pretty much gone now. The color is called Random Red. I don't know if you can see that or not, Random Red. And this is what I have left. And I still have to do that entire cat again down here. So I put this on pause. Unfortunately, because these flosses are kind of, they're hand dyed by Leo and Roxy, so they're unique and individual. And this Random Red, I came to realize even after the fact, that the reason why it's called that is because this was kind of a dye lot that came out a certain kind of way, and she wasn't trying to duplicate it, it just came out, and so she gave it to Caroline to sell. But the problem is now there is no more. So I have ordered some. So the other thing was, I had two other colors in that kind of set of reds that came in that package. So this is Vixen, this darker one, and this one is Merlot right here. Well, both of these are very, very different from this. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell, but they are. This is a very bright cherry red. These are much darker. And I'm not sure, I've ordered a couple more reds, some newer reds that have been released. They probably won't be here for another week because I just ordered them. But if they don't come closer to that red, I have to decide what to do. Because I might be able to stretch this. When I had just the top three done and I hadn't started on the two bottom ones yet, it looked like I was going to have enough. It looked like I was a little less than halfway through the hank, through the skein. Now I'm at the point where I'm debating whether or not I'm going to end up playing thread chicken with this. So what I think I'm going to do is, because my intention was to use one of these darker ones, there's a swirly kind of border around the edge. I was going to go ahead and stitch the border and then figure out if I couldn't get a matching red, did I want to pull out this cat and then stitch them both in a different but similar color, or, which this is really not what I want to do, pull out the two bottom ones and then stitch the reflection, the more like a different colored red, you know, so it looks like a shadow or something like that. But the other possibility is I actually try to see how far I can get, but it just means if I don't have enough to stitch them, then that means I have to pull all that out too. So yeah, I'm kind of sitting on this. And it was kind of a good stopping place. Like I said, I was going to order more thread, see if I could get a closer match, a closer red match. And now that May's upon us, I'm going to put this aside for May anyway. So, and come back to this in June. And hopefully by then, maybe with some time, I'll have made a decision on what I want to try to do. So, but this has been a lot of fun. And again, I mentioned this is my first stitch on a linen, a high count linen, and I'm doing 2/2. So, so yeah, it's the equivalent of stitching on like 16 count, and I'm really digging it. I mean, it's really been a fun stitch. There have been a couple of places where because the threads aren't perfect, like some of them are thicker and some of them are thinner, I've had to learn how to navigate that. But I think it looks great. I think they're really, really, really cute. So I can't wait to finish this. I just want to make a decision on how to finish it. So, and then I can get back to finishing it. So I'm looking forward to getting done with this. And it was a quick stitch too. And her patterns, if you're curious, this one worked in Pattern Keeper. So it was great because it meant that I could keep track. I'm like, I'm a little under halfway finished. I think I'm like at 47% or something. So, so there's obviously not a whole lot of border to do, but there's a big old second cat in the middle to do too. So yeah, I like this one a lot. So this has been a nice pattern to stitch. Okay, another unofficial stitch along Sal that I'm working on, which I believe I did show this last month when I did my cross stitch update, is the Chester's Sal. This, as I mentioned before, or as I probably talked about previously, this is Whistle Stop Stitcher Designs. She was trying to help out her sister, who adopted a cute little orange tabby named Chester, who needed quite a bit of veterinary dental work, I believe, dental surgery. And as we all know, those of us who own pets, we know that having pets and having to take care of their medical needs especially is rather expensive. So essentially what she tried to do was create a pattern and raise enough money to help her sister pay for Chester's medical bills, vet bills. And she more than raised enough money. She had intended initially to put it out there, put a certain number of copies out, because she knew what she was charging and the number of copies she was selling would raise the money that she needed, only to realize that they sold out super quick and people still wanted to stitch the chart. So she put it back out on Etsy, and now the proceeds, I believe, are going to an animal rescue in her area. So it is still benefiting animals in need. But yeah, I'm a little over, I think I'm like at 60 something percent. This is another one that her charts work with Pattern Keeper. So I'm about 2/3 of the way done. All I have left to do, other than one little section that I'll show you here in a minute, is basically stitch the house. So I am almost done with this. So this is Chester right here, and these are all his little friends. But yeah, all I have left is all of the brickwork and the shutters around the windows and the rest of the roof. And I think there's multiple chimneys. But then I'll be done, and then I will put in the rest of the year. So I'm confident I'm going to get this done in 2021. I just didn't want to jinx it. So I left that second part of the year off until I'm done. But I have stitched everything else except for the house. Now there are a couple of spots, if you're stitching along with this too, or have seen patterns, other people's finished projects, There are a couple of places where my stitching was off, but my memory's so bad I probably won't know in a few years where those items are off, so I'm not worried about it, and to any random person, they can't tell where those items are off. So this, I believe, was originally charted, or originally suggested in mostly Weeks Dye Works and Gentle Arts flosses, but she did give a DMC conversion, so that's what I'm doing. And then this is a 16 count Ada by Under the Sea called Properly Primitive, and I really like it a lot. And I've got enough, like I've got a whole second half that I haven't even, that I'm going to be able to put a whole second project on. So I'm really, really, really happy. And I do have a little bit here at the bottom too that even after my, 2 inches of whatever I need, for the edging, I think I'm still going to have enough down at the bottom that I might be able to save some of it for maybe some small ornaments or something like that. And I do, I have actually bought the piece of, let's say, material that I'm going to use to finish this with. I know I have in my mind what I want to do with this, so I'm really, really excited. And I've absolutely loved stitching on this every time I pick it up. The last few weeks I haven't picked it up like I had previously. I think I mentioned in a earlier episode that I'm using a method of keeping track of my stitching time, similar to one that the ladies at Leo and Roxy on their Little Red Mitten podcast, and Caroline Off the Grid Needle Arts, her podcast, have mentioned. And it was a method that was suggested by, I believe, another either yarn shop or fiber artist called the Gideon method. So essentially all I'm doing is all of my projects that I'm working on, whether it's cross stitch or it's knitting, I am setting 1 hour timers and basically setting aside an hour to stitch on those things that I want to work on. And usually a lot of these like floss tube episodes are about an hour long, or 45 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever, so it really works out quite well. I can sit down and watch an episode of somebody's floss tube and work on a project for an hour. So yeah, I'm very pleased with how that's going. It's keeping me on track. And then things like this, like Chester's place, if I want to stitch on it more often, I just set aside more 1 hour segments in a day to work on it. The Peruvian Cats was very similar. I would do that in 1 hour sections and see progress, which was really, really, really nice. So that way it kind of keeps me motivated, but it also allows me to just set aside just enough of amount of time that if I want to keep stitching after the hour's up, I absolutely do. But if I want to move on to another project, or I want to pick something else up and work on it for a little while, I don't feel like I'm just stitching in perpetuity, for forever. It allows me to mix things up. And that's how I've kept track of all my SALs, all my stitch alongs, all of my current works in progress. Even this one, same thing. I was putting aside an hour. However much I got done. But at least it kept me motivated to continue to work on all of my projects, at least for a little bit. And in some cases, like Chester and the cats, Peruvian Cats, I would work on those, tell myself, okay, these are things that I want to get done sooner. So I might work on those an hour every day during the week. And then on the weekends, those were the times when I would set aside for my Made to Create, my Stitchonomy, because as much as I enjoy stitching on those two, my Frosted Pumpkin, the progress I was seeing within an hour either was I was able to keep up, or it was definitely something that, that progress, an hour was enough time to spend on it and feel like I'd done something. Whereas like Chester's Place, I want to get it done. So I would put more 1 hour timer, time frames into getting Chester done. So it does, I am looking forward to getting it finished, and so knowing that I'm going to set it aside for May makes me a little sad, but I am looking forward to getting it finished, and because I am so close and because I know what I've got left to do, it'll be a really quick stitch to get it finished, so I'm kind of looking forward to picking it back up in June. Okay, and then these last two whips I'm going to show you are actually whips that I have started just in the last couple of weeks. And one of them I just started today, right before I started recording. So, April 22nd was Earth Day. And if you follow Steno Stitches on Instagram or on, here on FlossTube, as a matter of fact, they just started a channel here. They are a husband and wife duo. He is the designer of Steno Stitches, and then she does more like quilting and sewing and stuff like that, but she is usually the stitcher that does all the models for his patterns. So, as I was saying, April 22nd was Earth Day, and if you followed them on that day on their social media, you found out that they were releasing a pattern called Respect Your Mother. And if you knew about it in advance, you knew ahead of Earth Day, then you knew on Earth Day how to get in touch with them to get your hands on a copy for free, which is what I did. So this is the little bit of work that I've done starting on April 22nd. I did start this on Earth Day as an Earth Day start. But this is probably since then, so that's been 8 days. I didn't work on this every day for an hour. I think maybe in the last 8 days, I maybe put in four of those days I put in an hour. I do remember, and I don't know if it was the first day that I started or not, but there were a couple of episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus that I watched while stitching this. And this has been really fun. So basically it will be Earth. I got the Respect Your Mother done first, and then it will be Earth, and then all of these little trees around the edge. So this will be a nice little quick project, and I'm really looking forward to finishing this. The fabric is a 16 count. It's either Picture This Plus or Under the Sea. And it's called Arctic. And I don't know if you can tell, but I really am digging this fabric. So this is a blue, but it's got just the faintest hint of like a little bit of green and a little bit of gray. And it was just kind of like the perfect fabric for this. And then on top of that, I kind of felt like it was kind of appropriate because along with, trying to save the planet, respecting the planet, the Arctic, ice is constantly melting because of climate change. And so I felt like it was a fitting piece of fabric to do this on. So, and I really do think it's very, very, very pretty. I mean, as far as the subtle differences, the subtle shades on the fabric. So yeah, I like this a lot. And then the hoop was, I think just like a Loops and Threads, which I think is Michael's maybe brand. But it was one of those, just snaps, plastic, the inside plastic has like a little tab that snaps into the outer one, and it was actually really easy to get the fabric on there. So I'm really happy with this one. And yeah, I can't wait to finish this. And I think I'm just going to finish it and leave it in the hoop I mean, as a, you know, leave the hoop as the framed piece, because I think the colors look good, and I think it looks good just like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it may be one of the first times I've tried to lace a piece, you know, staying inside the hoop. So then, other than that, the final work in progress that I'm going to show you guys today, I literally started today. So, if you follow Michelle Bendy Stitches here on FlossTube, or Abby Top Knot Stitcher, they decided that they were going to start a Bushland Quaker Sow. And the pattern in particular is this one right here. This is number 2 in the Bushland Quaker series by Mojo Stitches, called Take Wing. And as you can see, it's got a ton of birds. And I love me some birds, so I couldn't help but pick this up. But I think that this was an expo release, which is part of the reason why. And I think I actually bought this from Abby at Top Knot Stitcher. But essentially they just decided, hey, you know, they wanted to stitch on, or I think Michelle wanted to stitch on this, and Abby was like, hey, I'll join, you know. I think they asked each other, would you like to start a sow? And they were like, sure, why not? But there are a lot of people that are doing the first Bushland Quaker and stitching along as well, and it's flowers. But it looks very, very similar as far as layout. It's just, instead of birds, it's flowers. But they had just started this sow, like, just in the last week, and I really, really, really wanted to start it. So, I went out and got whatever DMC I was missing. I think the original calls for Weeks Dye Works and Gentle Arts, and then they give DMC conversions, and then this model apparently was stitched using Cottage Garden threads in DMC. So yeah, but I'm just doing the DMC version, and literally started this tonight. I was doing a couple of things before I started recording, so I was trying to decide between a center start and a top left, and I opted for a top left. So this is where I'm at right here, just as a idea, and that's my start. And this is this also just happened to come this week. This is my April fabric from Fortnite Fabrics, Thelma and Louise. That's their dynamic duos fabric. I think I mentioned last time that the March fabric was Phil and Lil, and I had to look up who Phil and Lil were, and it was kind of a pickle green color. So this is Thelma and Louise, and this is a really, really pretty, I absolutely love this. Oh, and it's a 16 count Aida, but it's a, I don't know if you can get that or not, but it's like a pinky, purpley blue. I think that's just blowing it out way too much. Like, there's no way to show you. Yeah, there's really no way. But the colors, when I held the DMC colors up against this, it absolutely, absolutely looked gorgeous. So, so yeah, I just got this fabric like this week, literally, and in the mail, and I knew I wanted to do the stitch along, and so when I put the, you know, this is only some of them, but when I put those colors up against that fabric, I just knew, I was like, oh, this is going to look so nice. And even though this tan, I mean, a lot of these samplers, that's what people stitch on, is just kind of that beigey tan color. I really wanted something bright and vibrant. All those pinks and blues and greens, I wanted that to stand out against something really, really pretty. And the other thing was, too, so we used to go every year, and we haven't been since the hurricane hit down in the Gulf Coast. But we used to go to Port Aransas every year, and there was a bird wildlife refuge there in town. And this reminds me, yeah, you really can't make any of that out. I'm really sorry about that. But the colors in this fabric really reminded me of that wildlife refuge, because they had a big, huge painted mural along one kind of like wall of the parking lot leading out to the open water. So yeah, so all of this kind of reminded me of that. So I wanted to kind of capture that on fabric. Okay, so next up, I'm going to show you just a few things that I purchased in the last month. All of these items were things, I'm going to say either I found at one of the craft stores here locally, or I got like on Amazon. The first thing I was going to show you, and they're all, you know, pattern cross-stitch related. This I found at Michael's. So Michael's did a lot of things for International Women's Month, and so they had a lot of really cute cross-stitch and embroidery and tote bags and t-shirts and that kind of stuff. And every time I go back, I always look to see if there's never really anything new, but I always look to see if there's anything that maybe I didn't notice the last time. So yeah, I got this. And I didn't realize this until right now. I don't know if you can tell, but the fingernails are actual glitter. I did not notice that at all. But yeah, so I thought that was really cool. And I'll put it together and do it one day when I've got nothing else to do. But in the meantime, it's really pretty to look at, and it's a nice little kit with the fabric and hoop and floss and glitter and everything. So I got that. And then in addition, in the same like over in the same section, I don't know if you remember, this is all about the same time that Michael's was kind of making the rounds, maybe not on the news, but they were making the rounds because they, the story leaked that they were selling this book, and somebody complained because there are some patterns in here that have cuss words. Now I'm going to try to keep this family friendly, but if you know any four-letter words that start with F, that's one of them. And here's another one. Four-letter word, starts with S. Somebody complained, and so when it was found out by a couple of employees, they decided that they were just going to literally throw them in the trash. Instead of, I don't know, returning them to the publisher, discounting them, donating them. There could have been 1,000 other things they did with it. But apparently some Karens decided to clutch their pearls and get all upset about it. Because the rest of us wanted to be able to stitch something that, you know, represented our views and how we felt about the world. You know, and some of these are very, very, very benign, very harmless. But because some of them are not, not so harmless. people got their panties in a twist. So I went looking for this book. Unfortunately, my Michaels did not have this book. So I ended up, if you follow the, what is her? Stephanie Rohr. Her Instagram is Steph X Stitch, I think, on Instagram, and I started following her, because, I mean, she was making the news for quite a while, but she gave options on where to find her book, and one of which she actually linked to Amazon, so that's what I did, was I actually ordered this from Amazon. But, having said all that, when I was at Michael's, they did have this one, and I was really happy. Really, really happy about it. So, this is everybody. Well, here, I'll just do it this way. Malala, Amelia Earhart, RBG, Queen Elizabeth, Billie Jean King, Rosie the Riveter. So yeah. So this is what I got instead. There were some others, or there was another that was a feminist cross-stitch book, and it was more like a kit, actually. I think it had floss and stuff in it. But if I had to make a decision, I'm glad I chose this one. So, and then finally, the only other book that this actually kind of made the rounds on social media, and it's making the rounds right now on FlossTube because everybody's getting their copy, is Emma Congdon's Cross Stitch for the Earth. This was kind of a release right around Earth Day. And I kept seeing everybody, and all I kept seeing was this cover. And this is really pretty, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. It wasn't really anything that I thought I just had to have in book form until I saw some of the patterns. And yeah, then I realized I gotta have this book. And again, I think I ended up ordering this on Amazon, only because this one's just really pretty, the colors. And if you are familiar with Emma Congdon's name or the style, if that looks familiar, she does contribute a lot of patterns to some of the big cross-stitch magazines out of the UK. So that may be how you know her name or recognize she has a very distinctive style. But these are just absolutely amazing. And everybody from Mama Loves You GB on here, to, as a matter of fact, somebody else that I follow just got theirs, and I watched their FlossTube today, and saw this C one is absolutely amazing. Saw that they had just gotten theirs in the mail, so I was like, oh yeah, I just got mine. Just got mine too. I love this one. Take care of the earth and it will take care of you. Or she will take care of you. I mean, the colors are just amazing. I think there's something for everybody in here. Different quotes by, John Muir and Ralph Waldo Emerson. And this one's by Thoreau. And there are different, obviously different kinds of color schemes. So if you like the modern, vibrant colors, if you like the earthy colors, these are really cute too. just absolutely fantastic. I'm gonna end up showing you the William Shakespeare. I'm gonna end up showing you the whole book, but that's okay, because I need you to see this, because this is what it took to get me to buy the book. So if you think you might want the book, I want to show you what you might be missing out on if you don't get the book. So just absolutely fantastic. And this one even, just the colors, just amazing. So again, that's Cross Stitch for the Earth, 20 Designs by Emma Congdon. Yeah, go out and get it. It's on Amazon. I'm sure many of the bookstores have it too. She's also got this one, Cross Stitch for the Soul, which I'm going to go back and look and see if there's something in it. Like this one, just about every single one of these spoke to me. So I may go back and look and see if that one's got anything in it as well. So that is it for me. The last thing I would normally talk about is plans, but as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm actually going to save that for a separate episode, special edition episode, just because I want to get into the details of what I'm doing for May. So I will see you guys on that episode with a little more detail about my plans for May. As always, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope wherever you are, whether you're in the northern or southern hemisphere, I hope your weather is pretty. It's cold and rainy here, but we'll take it because it could be 110 already and miserable. So we'll take 70 or 66 and rain, and we can always use the moisture. But yes, I hope your weather is how you like it. I hope you and your loved ones and your family and your friends are all safe and healthy and getting vaccinated, because that's a good thing. And we will see you back here for my mayhem plans for May 2021. Until then, take care. We'll see you soon.